Hello everyone, welcome back to Maths Help. In today's session, we will go through Pythagoras Theorem. There will be a couple of different things we will be going through regarding Pythagoras Theorem. So the first thing is we will learn how to find the three different sides of the triangle. So what I mean by that is to decide which of the sides are which one is hypotenuse, which one is the other two. Then we will learn about the equation for Pythagoras Theorem and see what it is. And thirdly, we will learn how to use them. And finally, I will go a bit into how the equation is made up, how it works. Because sometimes it's not necessary for you to know how the equation came into place, but some of you might be curious, so feel free. So let's get started. The first criteria for to use Pythagoras theorem that it must be right angle. So to use, if you don't have a right angle, you cannot use Pythagoras theorem. So whichever triangle you have and you want to use Pythagoras theorem, it must be a right angle. And you can usually identify by having a square sign. So the square sign says that is a right angle. Or when you see a 90 degrees, that also means right angle. So it can either be shown as a small square on the side or 90 degrees. Yeah, perfect. Now here's the thing. How do you identify which sides are which? So the side that is longest would always be the hypotenuse. So there are a couple of things you will need to know regarding hypotenuse. So just going to use this one as an example. Always the longest side of triangle. And if you look very carefully, you'll realize it's always opposite of the right angle. What I mean by that is the hypotenuse will always be opposite of the right angle. So you can use this method to identify which one is the hypotenuse. So hopefully that makes sense, and we will get into the equation now. So the equation for a Pythagoras theorem is a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. So make sure you note down this equation, right? So let's say I have a right angle triangle such as this. Then I have a right angle here. So first thing I need to do is identify the hypotenuse. So the side that is opposite to the right angle is the hypotenuse. Perfect. And now here's the thing. The hypotenuse will always 100% be C. That is the side called C. And it doesn't matter which side A and B is. This can be A, this can be B, or this can be B, this can be A. It doesn't really matter. I use this one. But C must always, and must be the hypotenuse. Yeah. So make sure you keep that in mind. C cannot be anything else. It must be hypotenuse. But A and B can change. So for an example, let's say I have this side as 5 and this side as 3. I want to find the third side. I want to find C. So I call this A, call this B. What I do is I sub this value into this equation. So that would be A, which is 5, so that's 5 squared. Then B, which is 3, so that would be 3 squared, is equal to C squared. So now we can literally just type this in your calculator and you will get 25 plus 9 is equal to C squared. That would be 34 is equal to C squared. But here's the thing, you still haven't found what this exact side is. It is 2C squared. So to find just C, you will square root both sides, and that would give you square root of 34 is equal to C. I mean, of course, you can type in your calculator and get a decimal, but I'm just going to leave it like that. So that pretty much is in terms of using the Pythagoras theorem. So it's pretty straightforward. The Pythagoras theorem itself is not the hardest part, but the using of Pythagoras theorem is pretty hard. So I will suggest practice some exam style questions on this. Feel free to let me know if you want. I will comment. I will put the links to good example questions in the description. So feel free to let me know if you want. So let's try different examples of this formula. So a couple of different scenarios is I have three, let's call this three different kind of right angles. So all of them are three different kind of all of them are three different kind of right angles. So the first one, I know this is, let's say this is 5, so let's say this is 3, this is 4. Okay, and let's say next one is, this is 5, and let's say this is 2, and let's say in this case this one is 9 and this one is 3. So I have three different scenarios. I purposefully did this way because I want each of these sides being the unknowns differently. Yeah. So let's start with the first scenario. So what would I first do? Always in the first step of solving a Pythagoras is annotating the side. Annotate which sides are A, B, and C. So first step, identify C because that's the easiest to do. The opposite of the right angle, that's a C. The other two can be either A or B. Perfect. That's it. Step 1, identify sides. So let me write that down. Step 1, identify side. Step 2, write equation. So we know that the equation is A squared plus B squared is equal to C squared. Now, step 3, sub in values. So what I mean by that is we know that A is 3, therefore it is 3 squared plus 4 squared because we know B is 4, right? 4 squared is equal to C squared. That would be 9 plus 16 is equal to C squared, which is 25 is equal to C squared. But are we done with this question? No, we are, because we haven't found C yet. We found C squared. So to find C, I square both sides, which should give me C is equal to 5. Perfect. So that means C is equal to 5. And we are done with the first scenario. So now let's move on to the second scenario. So remember the steps, identify the sides. So in this case, the side opposite to the right angle is C, the other one is A and B. Steps 2, write down the equation, which is A squared plus B squared is equal to C squared. Yeah. Now step 3, sub in the values, which is A, which is 2 squared plus B squared. We don't know what B squared is, so we're just going to leave it as it is. But we do know what C is, therefore it becomes 5 squared. So now if you simplify, we get 4 plus B squared is equal to 25. Now here is where it is slightly different to what you have been going through. So if you look closely, you realize you don't have everything on one side. The unknown and number is there. So to get rid of 4, you see this. So 4 is adding B squared, therefore you subtract 4 from both sides, which should give you B squared is equal to 21. Once again, we don't want B squared, we want B. Therefore, we square root both sides, which gives you b is equal to square root of 21. But we could find an exact number. I'm just going to leave it as a said form. But that's pretty much it for this method. And the final one, step number 3, is very similar to question number 3 is very similar to question number 2. So, but let's start from the very beginning, following each steps. Step 1, identify the sides. The side opposite to right angle, C. The rest 2 is A and B. Step 2, write equation, which is a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. Step 3, sub in the values. We don't know a, so we're going to leave it like that. B squared is 3 squared is equal to 9 squared. So that is a squared plus 9 is equal to 81, which means a squared is equal to 72. So we don't want a squared, we want a. Therefore, square root both sides. A is equal to square root of 72. And that's it. We are done. So if you have any questions, feel free to just ask me on the comment section. But that's pretty much it for using Pythagoras theorem and what the theorem is. But now I will go into a very short explanation of how this theorem works. So if you want to learn that, feel free to carry on watching the video. Otherwise, that's it. Feel free to ask me any questions. Yeah. So let's carry on. Let me remove all of this. So we know that this only works for a right angle. So let me write that down first. So we have a right angle, right? So before we get back into triangle, I want you guys to think slightly differently. So imagine I have a rectangle. How would I find the area of that? I will do base times height or length times width, either of these things, right? But if, let's say, I have a square instead, how would you find the area? If I call this side A and this side A, the area of this square would be A times A, which is A squared. So now, if we look back into the triangle we have, right? So if we look back into the right angle triangle we have, look at this as a square and look this one as a square. You know this side is A, this side is B, right? When you do A squared, what you are actually doing is you're doing A times A, finding this area. And when you're finding B, you're doing B times B, which gives you this area. And what the equation, the Pythagoras theorem, is stating is that when you add this area to this area, you get the area for C, which is this square, which is C times C, which gives you this. Sorry for the messy drawing. So the equation, the Pythagoras theorem equation, is telling you that area of A plus area of B gives you area of C. And this is why it can only ever be true for a right angle. So this is what you're actually finding. But of course, by rearranging the equation, you can just find the length. So that's pretty much it. Hopefully it helped. Please feel free to just ask me any questions you have in the comment section. And hopefully you have a great day. So see you.